Okay, good morning guys. Here's Denzel. In previous lecture, we've already talked about the framework of Microeconomics 1. In today's lecture, I will begin to introduce the main content of this course and start it from chapter 1, Thinking Like an Economist. In this chapter, I will introduce some core principles and conceptions of economics. The first one, the scarcity principle. We can see the definition in this slide. The scarcity principle tells us the desire of us are boundless, but the resources we have are limited. So we must sacrifice something when we make choices. You buy things, you should pay money, you watch my video, and you spend some time. There's always some cost. Think about the scenario. You have $5 and you can only choose to buy an ice cream or a pizza. Both of them are priced $5. The ice cream worth $7 to you, and the pizza worth $8. If you choose to buy a pizza, you must pay the money and lose the opportunity to buy an ice cream. This principle also called the no free lunch principle, that you must sacrifice something. Here's some simple examples. We skip them. Well, the cost-benefit principle. If you know me well, you will notice that I always keep saying it over and over. It is the most important principle in economics since it illustrates the fundamental logic of entities' behavior in economics world. The definition of this is everyone only take action when its extra benefit is exceed the extra cost. For example, the utility I'm going to earn from buying the pizza must greater than its price in a previous scenario. In other words, the money I'm willing to pay must exceed the price of pizza. As I just mentioned before, the cost not only the money, but also can be the time, the energy, and the human resources, and so on. Here is a simple example for the cost-benefit principle. I will mention a very important assumption in economics is everyone is a rational person. They don't take action irrational. Only take action when the extra benefit exceeds the extra cost. Well, the economic surplus, its definition is a discrepancy between the total benefit and total cost. In this case, the total benefit is $10, while the total cost is $9. So the economic surplus is 10 minus 9. It's $1 in this case. And we will have a further discussion about the conception after we learned chapter 3. The economic surplus can be illustrated, can be visible in the market figure. The opportunity cost is another key conception in economics. It is not a specific cost, it is not an exist cost, but it's a kind of way to measure the cost. You can deem this as the value of the best alternative choice. For example, in the previous ice cream and pizza case, let me give you a recall. You only have $5 and both the ice cream and the pizza is priced $5. You're willing to pay $7 for an ice cream and willing to pay $8 for a pizza. It also means that the utility of an ice cream is $7 and the utility of the pizza is $8. While the conception of the utility will be introduced later in chapter 5. The opportunity cost of buying a pizza is the value you could earn from the alternative, which is buying an ice cream, and it's $7. In this case, the explicit cost is the money you've paid, that is $5. The implicit cost is the net benefit you could earn from the alternative, it's $2. The opportunity cost is the sum of them, which is 5 plus 2 is $7. Be careful. The alternative cost isn't the combined value of all possible choice, but the most valuable one. I will have a deeper introduce about the opportunity cost when we talk about the cost structure in chapter 7. We'll skip this. Well, there are a few pitfalls when we made our own choice. We should think about the absolute amount instead of the proportion. In the slide scenarios, the amount of money saving because of walk to town is equal. So there's no difference between the two scenarios. Even if the item in the first situation is $25, well, the item in the second situation is $2,500. The second pitfall is ignore the implicit cost. You cannot buy an ice cream in the previous situation just because the utility exceed the explicit cost. You should also aware that the implicit cost of buying an ice cream is $3 you could earn from a pizza. The third one is failure to think about the margin. I will introduce the sunk cost first. The sunk cost is a cost that you can't withdraw. It includes the fixed cost and some of the variable cost. The detail of this will be shown in industrial economics, so I don't mention here. One typical example of sunk cost is Buffett. You already paid a fixed amount of money that you cannot withdraw. When you cannot eat anymore, which means the marginal benefit of food is 0 or negative. You shouldn't eat anymore even if you don't think you already ate the entrance fee back. Well, I just mentioned the conception of marginal. I think some of you guys may confuse about it. I'm doing the further explanation right now. The marginal means the extra of the total when you consume an extra one. In mathematics, it is the first derivative of the total function, of the total cost function. Well, the average cost is the total cost function divided by the quantity. I will show you a very easy example. If the pizza is $5 each, and the total cost function will be 5Q, then the Q means the number of pizza you want to buy here. Thus, the marginal cost should be the first derivative of the 5Q, which is $5. And the average cost is total cost divided by the quantity, and it is also $5. They are occasionally same in this case. Let's see an easier example. If you don't know the calculus, you can understand the marginals through this case. We can see the cost for launch the first one is $3. So the marginal cost is $3 for the first one. While you launch the second one, the total cost should increase to $7. And the increment is $4, and the second one's marginal cost is $4. After we see through the data, we can find that the marginal cost is the increment of one more launches. While the normative and positive economics is easy. You read the slide carefully and you can understand the conception. The normative economics principle says how people should behave. Like it's kind of like the moral judgment. And the positive economics principle predicts how people will behave. So it's based on the previous data, based on the previous observation to predict the future behavior. The incentive principle shows the further explanation of benefit and cost. The benefit Action are more likely to be taken if their benefit raise. Makes sense, right? By contrast, if the cost raise, the action are less likely to be taken. Well, this course is all about the microeconomics. Will help you to understand the individual choice and simple one good market. There are lots of markets in economics, include the financial market, money market, foreign exchange market, and so on. This will be discussed in future courses, like the money economics, monetary economics, the international economics. In microeconomics, this one, we're more focused on the performance of big economics entities and the government policies. So we focus on these indicators, for example, the inflation, the GDP, the unemployment rate, the economic growth rate. So this is a region of the macroeconomics. If you already listened to this lecture carefully, you should know that economics is not confined in money, but about the individual's behavior and their choices. After you cultivate the economics perspective, you will find yourself more clearly in logic and thinking. So that's all for today's course. That's all for the chapter 1. Thank you guys. Goodbye.